Lunch.
I can give you some paragraphs for lunch to read.
No, that's not a good lunch. Okay.
I'll give you some paper.
No, thank you. Yeah, I'm sure. So this is P3. I need to find P7, right? P7. Then share this screen. P7. All right. Megan, can you see Social Studies 4 P7 on your screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, perfect. So we're going to go down to modules. And we're going to scroll down. I know Thursday shows French and Indian War text. We're going to skip across that. We're going to come back to Thursday. I want you guys to see what Friday shows. We're not taking the test today, but in order to review it, we have to see all the parts of it, correct? Kind of like in front of my students who are in class right now, you see the test questions. Megan has the test questions with her because I gave them to you yesterday, right, Megan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you need to have those test questions in front of you. Don't write down the answers, okay? You have the same test questions in front of you, just like, yes, there are 24 questions. We're going to go through these question by question so that you see what the right answers are. Do not write them down, okay? Here are where our resources are. Everybody see this in class? Okay. So when it says based on source 1, source 2, source 3, source 4 on this first page, it's this set right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Let me show you so you don't get confused tomorrow. This first page of your test comes from, here's the beginning of the test where it says Friday Unit 2 test. That's actually a blank page. There's no need for you to actually click on that. This is the first thing you need to click. So everybody click there. And give it a moment to load. Like I said, this page is this test is 24 pages long.
So it's going to learn for 24 hours.
Yeah, I wish. Not really. Like I said, I got so tired of messing in Canvas because there's so much to load. Okay, so there's a picture. It does. It looks like they're being dropped off and they're carrying an older person up on shore because that person looks like they're too tired to walk through the shore. You know how at the beach, you guys, I'm sure enough of you have walked through the water right at the edge of the beach. It's pretty hard to walk through the water as it meets, right? Through the sand where it's meeting the coastline. So this person looks like he's pretty old and someone younger and stronger is having to carry him through that water area. Okay. All right. So source 1, Plymouth Colony, America's first permanent Puritan settlement, was established by English separatist Puritans in December 1620. During this time, England was in religious turmoil and the religious climate was hostile and threatening, especially towards religious nonconformists like the Puritans. So a nonconformist is somebody who's different from the rest. Hold on, I gotta respond to a parent real quick. Give me just a second, guys. Logan. Logan. Okay. The Puritans were a group of people who felt the Church of England was too closely associated with the Catholic religion and needed to be reformed. The Pilgrims left England to seek religious freedom or simply to find a better life. After a period in Holland, they set sail from Plymouth, England on September 16th, 1620, aboard the Mayflower, and its 102 passengers spent 65 days at sea. So your first question, what's right in front of you, says based on source 1, which of the following most likely explains why the Puritans left England for North America? Select 2 that apply. Look at your choices. Give me a moment so I can go look at the packet and see what the official answer is, okay? Seriously. The actual size of this entire unit test is 30 pages.
Can I say the answer?
Yeah.
Can I say the answer?
Un momento, por favor. Just a moment, please. Printer, please wake up. All right, what do you think the answer is?
And B.
What is it?
And B.
E and what?
B.
B, yes. The answers are B and E, and do not write those down anywhere. The answers are B and E.
Because in there it says that they either wanted to seek religious freedom.
They wanted to seek religious freedom, and what was the other?
Or have a better life.
And have a better life. Absolutely.
Do we just press next?
Yes, because we need to go to source 2, so press next. Yerk. And it's going to take a moment for it to download. All right, so this article is about Jamestown. In June of 1606, okay, King James I granted a charter to a group of London entrepreneurs, the Virginia Company, to establish an English settlement in the Chesapeake region of North America. In December of that year, 104 settlers sailed from London with company instructions to build a secure settlement, find gold, and seek a water route to the Pacific. On On May 14th, 1607, the Virginia Company settlers landed on Jamestown Island to establish an English colony 60 miles from the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. Within days of landing, the colonists were attacked by Powhatan Indians. The newcomers spent the next few weeks working to build a wooden fort. The Virginia Company tried to intensify the focus on money-making industry with the first supply to Jamestown. When Captain Newport Hold on. God. I'm sorry, guys. Bye. SAEVRS. Hold on, guys. It's a good thing I'm not trying to teach a class or anything. You hear the other teachers yelling? Everybody just got this email and we're having to stop teaching to respond. Sorry, I'm having to delay my teaching. I have to respond right now. Please stop talking, okay? I hear word from here. Ryan Tidwell, Riley Lindsay. Oh my goodness, who's my third? Ryan Tidwell, Riley Lindsay. Not he. Margie. Talk about doing last minute. We're supposed to send students down at 8:30. It's 8:35 in the email, so you need the information immediately. Okay, who are my two that are supposed to go down? Is it Kimber and Melanie? In the next couple minutes, I'll know what to do with y'all, because that's what this was about. No, because they should have had this worked out before now. I mean, literally coming down to the wire. Okay, back to me trying to work. Had I started reading it, or was that where I paused? Okay. So I just finished reading about the wooden fort. Fabulous. All right. The Virginia Company tried to intensify the focus on money-making industry with the first supply to Jamestown. When Captain Newport returned to Virginia with the first supply in early 1608, he also had new and different instructions from the Virginia Company in England. The company's governing council was not pleased with the accomplishments of the colonists, especially that no gold, trade, or staple product had yet to be found to produce profits for the company's stockholders. I want to point out that this right here is not the proper word. That should be the word be. Had yet to be found. Okay, so when you're reading that tomorrow, it's not going to make sense, because that shouldn't be been. It should be had yet to be found. Okay, to produce profits for the company's stockholders. The first supply carried a new crop of colonists with specialized skills that the company hoped would fix the colony and create a profitable industry in the new land of Virginia. But disease, famine, and sporadic attacks from the neighboring Powhatan Indians took a tremendous toll on the population of the settlement. What is what? Famine is starvation.
Is it stockholders, shareholders, like on here, like Preston? Isn't that shareholders? So it says stockholder.
Shareholder would be people who, yeah, it is like a stockholder. It would be people that own part of the business.
So this time it's one answer.
Yes, one answer. Good morning. Number 2, based on source 2, what was the main purpose for the Virginia Company to settle at Jamestown?
A.
No, not A.
No, not A. D. C.
C. It is C.
Okay.
To make a profit for its shareholders. So number 3, to make a profit for its shareholders. Let's go on to the next one. So hit next. So you get to source 3. Back to a parent message. Wow, has anybody's page come in yet?
Wow.
What?
Everyone's still loading.
I'm gonna try it this way. Okay, when all else fails, when it doesn't populate it like it's supposed to, just hit download.
Have we seen this picture before?
No, that was yesterday's. This is a new one.
Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing.
Okay, go back.
Press show unfolded.
Okay, so here is your source 3. See the map up on the screen? Stop share.
Still loading. It says download complete, but it's still loading.
Well, if you look up on the screen, this is what it looks like. This map up on the screen, guys, is this map. Please stop talking. Hudson Bay Company, around Hudson Bay. Here is New France. Remember, it was called New France because it was just an extension of the country of France. This was called New England because it was an extension of England. And this was New Spain because it was an extension of the country of Spain. Okay, so these were the European claims: Britain, France, Spain. We never do study Russia. I don't know why. It was the same way when I was young. Okay. So looking at your question 3, using source 3, how did European colonization affect the borders and territories of European countries that created colonies in North America? A, European countries expanded their borders and claimed territories in North America as part of their own. B, European colonies in North America became new countries. C, European countries gained new resources from North American lands. Or D, European countries extended its access to Pacific Ocean trade routes.
I think it's mine's frozen and it won't let me turn it off, and when I close it just goes back to the same thing.
You playing with your mouse is putting more and more input to your computer. That's why it's frozen. Stop moving your finger all over the mouse pad.
I think it's
You're putting more and more input into your computer.
B or C.
What do you think, Kaylee?
C. It's B. It's C.
Look at your choices.
It is not A. That is.
Let's go through them. Look at the names of it. New France, New Spain, New England. Now let's look at our choices. A says European countries expanded their borders and claimed territories in North America as part of their own.
No.
Did they expand their borders?
Yeah.
So why are you saying that's wrong then?
I don't know.
It's A. They expanded their borders. We wrote those very things down when we were doing those 2 lessons. We made a point of it by calling it New Spain, New France, and New England.
Yep.
They expanded their borders. They couldn't expand it by growing land in the ocean. They expanded their borders by getting new land on another continent. Now, try going back. Nope, don't close it. Go back to Canvas.
Doing it next.
Canvas. If you are able to do it through Canvas, then yes, do next. I wasn't able to go through Canvas. I had to download mine.
No, it came up right now. No, like not the one we just did, but the.
Logan, please go over to Bryson's and see if you can help him, please.
Mine's done loading already.
Okay, my source 4 came up.
I think it's working out.
Oh, wow. Source 4 is long.
The girls won't move.
We got to keep. Ugh. So what do you need to do? Start it over? The whole computer? Okay. All right. Has everybody got to their source 4? Because we need to keep going. We're not going to have enough time to go over this whole test. And that's going to be a problem for you guys because I'm trying to go over it for you. What did you do, Maya, to have yours come in sideways? Stop clicking the buttons to make it come in sideways. Because I see you have it on that button at the top to make it come in sideways. Don't do that. All right. Source 4. European explorers came to the New World of North America in the 1500s. Before that time, the continent was an unknown place to them. These adventurers, I guess if it's turned off, and turn it back on. Before that time, the continent was an unknown place to them. These adventurers saw it as an entirely new land, with animals and plants to discover. They also met new people in this exciting new world, people with fascinating lifeways that the Europeans had never seen, and languages they had never heard. This new world for Europeans was actually a very old world for the various people they met in North America. See if they've emailed us back on what to do for the Sabres testing. They haven't said what to do about the testing yet, so I'm still waiting on that one. today we call these people Native Americans. As the English, French, and Spanish explorers came to North America, they brought tremendous changes to Native American tribes. Europeans carried a hidden enemy to the Native Americans: new diseases. Native peoples of America had no immunity to the diseases that European explorers and colonists brought with them. Diseases such as smallpox, influenza, measles, and even chickenpox proved deadly to Native Americans. Europeans were used to these diseases, but Native American people had no resistance to them. Sometimes the illnesses spread through direct contact with colonists. Other times they were transmitted as Native Americans traded with one another. Okay, Melanie and Kimber. Go to room 202. The result of this contact with European germs was horrible. Sometimes whole villages perished in a short time. So looking at question 4, based on source 4, what purpose did European explorers have on their journey to North America?
See?
What is it?
See? I think it's
Not C.
not C. Oh, I think it should be either B or A. B.
Not B as in boy. What is it?
D.
It's not B as in boy.
It's D.
It's D as in dog. To discover new people, plants, and animals. Look at the first paragraph. It says, these adventurers saw it as an entirely new land with animals and plants to discover.
All right.
I'm trying to figure out what she's doing with kids. Number 5, based on source 4, what impact did Europeans have on Native Americans? A, Europeans taught the Native Americans new languages. B, Europeans brought new customs and religions to the Native Americans. C, Europeans brought diseases that the Native Americans were not immune to. Or D, Europeans traded furs with the Native Americans.
C.
C, they brought diseases that Native Americans were not immune to. Their immune systems were not ready for all of it. Number 6, using all the sources, what was the main reason for European countries such as France, Spain, and Britain to colonize North America? A, to spread religion around the world. B, to gain wealth and resources for the mother country. C, to create new trade routes with other countries. Or D, to increase the lands of the European country.
B.
It's B, to gain wealth and resources for the mother country. That's why they set out to do that, to make more money. That's what gets countries to explore.
Yeah, so
It's all about the almighty buck.
so if they go to war, they have
Money.
resources.
Yep.
Oh,
Next set of resources. Okay, so if you hit next, that's going to take you to the test questions, which we just went through. So you don't need that. So when it hits next, hit next again. That's going to take you to the second page of test questions. We just did that. So hit next again. And that's going to get you to source 1, part 2. That's where you need to be. Everybody with me? Top of your page needs to say source 1, part 2. Now, hopefully sometime this year it will come in.
2, source 1, apply 2, DOC.
Sure, man. You can do it. You can do it. You can. You can.
Are you doing your Stitch voice? Yeah, well, I want.
You can do it.
Yeah, but mine can't do it.
Come on. We're going to run out of time.
I'm just gonna make it download. Can you download it?
No, not
That's
outcomes.
what it's supposed to look like. I downloaded it. So it's supposed to look like this.
I've looked at so many resources. I do not have it memorized, so you'll have to let me download mine so I can see it, okay? Okay. So that's what it looks like. Picture of Jamestown, Virginia.
That's what mine says. That's what mine says. When it actually has pitch color, I mean.
Yes, it's a color image.
How do you download?
Hit download.
Oh. Okay, found it. Did I press show and forward?
Okay.
Download complete. How do you do it? When the download's gonna come out, we hit download. And then you just press the X up there. Then you're gonna pop up and say, oh, no. Oh, you can take mine. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's really nice. Oh, I like that.
That's the standard. Okay, so number 7 says based on source 1, what physical characteristics of the area made it suitable to construct James Fort at that location? I want to hear Aaliyah answer it because she just sits back there quiet all the time. And she has answers and she never wants to say them because she's afraid of being wrong. But actually, Chica's been getting some good answers lately. A, having protection from a mountain range. B, being close to a river. C, warm climate. Or D, an abundance of natural resources. Look at that picture. What made it good to build a fort there? What do you think, Ms. McGill? What? Being close to the water, river, B. Number 7 is B. Yeah, it's B, being close to a river. That's what made it good for, what? I do not want outcomes, no. All right, hold on a minute. I got to go back to modules. It was 7. It's B. 7 is B.
I was on number 8.
Yep.
I have to go back to module. Back to module? Yeah. I can't get around.
All right, so now we should be on Unit 2, Test Source 2 of Part 2. Everybody hear me?
Yeah.
All right, I need the dancing feet to stop. I need the talking to stop. Listen to me. If you're having to go back into Canvas like I did, modules, Unit 2, Test Source 2 of Part 2. Logan, please go help Kaylee. If I keep stopping, there's no way we're going to finish this review. Okay. Source 2. Settlement. Harsh challenges confront colonists. To the English voyagers who waited ashore at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay on a balmy April day in 1607, the lush Virginia landscape must have seemed like a garden paradise after 4.5 months at sea. They set about building a fortress and clearing land for the commercial outpost they had been sent to establish, in which they called James City. Look how they spelled city. Isn't that weird? They were eager to get down to the business of extracting gold, timber, and other commodities to ship back to London. But Jamestown proved to be neither a paradise nor a gold mine. In the heat of that first summer, at the mosquito-infested settlement, 46 of the colonists died of fever, starvation, or from Native American arrows. By year's end, only 38 remained. Were it not for the timely arrival of British supply ships in January 1608, and again the following October, Jamestown would have definitely vanished. After learning how to grow tobacco from the Native Americans, the warmer climate and fertile land meant that it was possible to grow crops throughout the entire year. The Virginia Company had many natural resources, including forests and fish. Eventually, Jamestown became a profitable colony.
Can I say the answer?
Can we read the question?
Yes.
Number 8. Based on source 2, which of the following best describes how the climate of Jamestown affected the survival of the colony? 8. The warm weather almost destroyed the colony, but over time, the colonists were able to use it to grow crops for most of the year. B. The cold weather of the winter almost destroyed the colony. C. The warm weather allowed the colonists to grow crops, catch fish, and cut down timber. Or D. The cold weather allowed the colonists to store food for long periods of time.
A.
The warm weather almost destroyed the colony. It's A. Because the warm weather allowed those mosquitoes to prosper, and the mosquitoes made people sick.
I wanted to say it so
But
bad.
over time, the colonists were able to grow crops for most of the year. Okay. Yeah, yellow fever. Yellow fever. Number 9, ask about source 3, so hit next. Please, Canvas, work.
Again.
Yay, it worked, it worked.
The growth of tobacco trade.
Yes. Source 3, growth of the tobacco trade. John Rolfe, a colonist who lived in Jamestown, thought that Virginia might be an outstanding site for tobacco growth. Early attempts to sell Virginian tobacco had fallen short of expectations. Smokers felt that the tobacco of the Caribbean was much less harsh than Virginian tobacco. Rolfe reacted to consumer demand by importing seed from the West Indies and cultivating the plant in the Jamestown colony. Those tobacco seeds became the seeds of a huge economic empire. By 1630, over 1.5 million pounds of tobacco were being exported from Jamestown every year. The tobacco economy rapidly began to shape the society and development of the colony.
So looking at question 9, based on source 3, why did John Rolfe decide to plant tobacco from the West Indies at the Jamestown colony? A, fertile soil from the Appalachian Mountains was deposited in the valley. B, the Ohio River flooded, depositing fertile soil along the riverbanks. C, a glacier slowly located in the valley transported fertile soil to the region. Or
Not
D,
at all.
European markets demanded this type of tobacco.
B. 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 B.
If you think it's B, raise your hand. If you think it's D, raise your hand.
Kind of both.
It's D. European markets demanded this type of tobacco.
Kind of both for D.
Look at that last paragraph. By 1630, over 1.5 million pounds of tobacco were being exported. To export means to ship out. Ship out of America into Europe.
I didn't know this is John Rolfe who married Pocahontas.
Yeah, John Rolfe married Pocahontas, the kidnapped Native American.
So they kidnapped him.
Not the Disney version. All right, hit next. Let's get to that source 4.
All right, I need all the extraneous talking to stop so that we can get this whole thing done. Okay. Source 4. By the early 1700s, the tobacco industry had exploded in Jamestown and surrounding areas. Tobacco was grown in the fertile lands of the Tidewater, the Piedmont, and the Valley and Ridge province west of the Blue Ridge. But most of the tobacco farming was concentrated in Southside Virginia. Virginia colonists saw the Native Americans growing tobacco, and the colonists quickly adopted tobacco as their primary mechanism of getting wealthy. So as you see in the title, it says the origins of slavery in Virginia. That was an impetus for having a lot of very cheap labor. They needed a lot of people to work the fields to cultivate all the tobacco, and farmers saw very, very cheap labor as the way to go. All right, question number 10. Based on source 4, what was the main reason for bringing slaves to the Jamestown colony? A, there were not enough workers in the colony to produce the tobacco. B, farms were large in Jamestown that needed a lot of workers. Have a seat, Bryson. C, workers from England did not want to work in the hot sun. Or D, English workers did not want to work for the pay that the plantation owners were paying. It's A.
I think it's A.
There were not enough workers in the colony to produce the tobacco. They needed a lot of workers.
So, was it A?
It's A. It's A. A. 10 is A. All right, number 11. Using source 4, why did planters in the Jamestown region decide to use slaves rather than paid laborers? A, planters wanted to meet the demand for natural resources by England. B, planters had no interest in working these large crops. C, planters required cheap labor to increase profits. Or D, planters needed more workers to plow the dry land surrounding Jamestown.
I think it was
What is it?
C.
C, planters required cheap labor to increase profits.
That's what it said.
Number 12, based on all the sources, which of the following best describes why Jamestown was well suited for agriculture? Select 2 that apply. You have to get them both or you get it wrong. All right,
B.
hold on. Let me read it.
The other one was B.
11 was C. Please let me read the choices for 12. We're not going to get through all this. We're only on number 12, and there are 24 questions.
We still have 12 more to go.
Based on all the sources, which of the following best describes why Jamestown was well suited for agriculture? Select 2 that apply. A, warm climate. B, fertile land. C, lots of available water. D, natural mineral deposits. E, mines full of gold.
So D is 1.
D is wrong.
Okay, C is 1.
Kaylee,
B and A.
what is it, Kaylee?
A and B.
A and B, warm climate and fertile land. A and B.
I thought it was C and A.
All right. Number 13 says based on source 1.
So we're on another set. So hit next. That's going to take you to test questions. We've already done the test questions. So hit next again. That's going to hit next set of test questions. We've already done them. So you're going to hit next again. This will get you to test source 1, part 3. That's where you need to be. Test source 1, part 3. Got it? That's where everybody needs to be. Melanie and Kimber, you need to be on test source 1, part 3. Sorry, you missed a whole section of the test review. I can't do anything about that. The only thing I can say is go home today, go to Canvas, and pull up today's video when you get home, okay? Pull up today's Zoom. So test source 1, part 3. All right, guys. Source 1.
Native American horse history. During the 1500s, the Spanish brought the horse to the New World. The horse brought about a new culture to the New World, one that was totally dependent upon them. Before the coming of the horse, Native American tribes had used dogs for carrying small portable shelters. After the horse arrived, the portable shelters became large decorative teepees. Yes, we've already read this article before. Is that what you're going to? Yeah. Hunting took on a different form also. Before the horse, the primary way of hunting was to run a herd of game over a cliff. Remember the comment about running 100 buffalo over the cliff?
Yes.
After the arrival of the horse, the Native Americans could hunt from horseback, choosing only the most desirable of targets for their prey. The horse, too, was also a very useful animal as it helped with battle. It allowed for faster travel. It allowed for the surprising of opponents and allowed people to fight from a higher level. So number 13 says, based on source 1, how did Europeans change the way Native Americans hunted? A, Europeans introduced horses that Native Americans used to hunt. B, Europeans traded weapons with Native Americans that were used to hunt game and furs. C, Europeans taught Native Americans new ways to hunt game. Or D, Europeans introduced dogs to Native Americans that were used to hunt game. A, Europeans introduced horses that Native Americans used to hunt. 13 is A. Let's go to next. Get to the next article.
I don't think Europeans introduced dogs.
No. Dogs were here a lot longer than that. In the form of wolves.
Oh, that's nice. Are those raccoons? And we've seen this one.
And we've seen this one before too. All right. So Native Americans looking at a gun and looking at a sack of flour, and the British or French, whomever, looking at the, yes, looking at the pelts. So they're probably French. All right.
So question 14 says, based on source 1 and source 2, how did trade with the European colonists influence the Native Americans of North America? A, Native Americans created new ways to trade furs with Europeans. B, Native Americans allowed the Christian faith to become a part of their way of life. C, Native Americans would eventually share their lands with the European colonists. Or D, Native Americans incorporated new items and technology as part of their everyday lives.
D.
D, because we see them holding a weapon there, don't we? All right, based on source 3, so hit next.
It's crazy how a picture can do
This test is very source dependent, isn't it? Lots and lots of sources.
It's crazy. It's all in the source. Everything that
When my son Colby, who's now a 9th grader, when he was a 5th grader, they completely redid LEAP tests and made it so that instead of expecting children to take the LEAP test based on their outside knowledge of social studies and science, especially social studies, They want to give children the content and then test them on it. So that's why these things are so high in sources. They'll give you a source and then ask you a question or two based on that source. Then they'll give you another source and ask you a question or two based on that source. That's why it's set up this way. Because it used to be that children who had traveled a lot, and that generally means children who come from more affluent families, they tended to have a wider background knowledge. Like my family, we do a lot of traveling that's educational. We go and do things that are outside. We learn about science and social studies on our vacations. That's just what we do. Yeah, we've been to Six Flags, but most of our trips are to go learn things. We're the weirdos that enjoy that kind of thing. But that meant my children would test well. And that's historically how things go. And then you have children whose families don't travel a lot and they would not test well. Well, that set up a huge disparity when it came to testing. So they changed up testing a few years ago. That's why our tests are set up this way. That's why you have so many sources and then questions, and then more sources and more questions. Everybody is given the information and then the questions. Does that make sense? Just to make it fair for everybody. So everybody has all the same information. Everybody has the same opportunity to do well if you just pay attention. Okay? But it means a whole lot of information for the teacher to load into Canvas. Well, I don't like Canvas. All right, Jesuits in New France. We've seen this picture before, haven't we?
Yep.
And the text. Absolutely. Jesuit priests came to New France to convert Native Americans to Christianity. The Native Americans found the Jesuits to be different from the other Europeans they had encountered, as they did not seem to want land or furs. They only wanted to live in Native American households so that they could learn the language. Jesuits, who were often called black robes, were well liked because of their quiet manners. Native Americans who would accept conversion would legally become French, having the right to live and acquire property in France. Eventually, the belief system of the Jesuits became more widely accepted. Under this new religion, Native Americans married according to the beliefs of Christianity. All right, so number 15.
B.
That's where we are, right?
Yeah.
Source 3. Based on source 3, which statement best explains how the Jesuits intended on converting the Native Americans to Christianity? A, trade land and furs of the Native Americans. B, learn the language and accept the customs of the Native Americans. C, display quiet manners to the Native Americans. Or D, allow Native Americans to marry according to Christian beliefs. B, learn the language and accept the customs of the Native Americans. Same question we had before, isn't it?
I knew it.
It makes it easy when we've already had this before, doesn't it?
I know. You remember.
All right, 16.
16.
Okay, so this one's going to have you comparing the next article to this article we just read. Okay. Hit next.
In every class, 17 is a paragraph. Oh, okay.
No, 17 is not a paragraph. It's 3 sentences minimum. I'm honestly tired of grading paragraphs.
I'll turn out to be a paragraph.
16 is going to go with source 4 and 3. All right, source 4, King Phillips War. The Native Americans helped the Pilgrims to survive, but the Pilgrims adapted their English lifestyles to the New World. Native American ways were rejected, and the Pilgrims tried to force their culture on the Native Americans. A great rift of how land should be used caused a lasting and bloody conflict known as King Philip's War. As a reminder, was King Philip actually a king?
No.
Who was he?
He was an Indian tribe leader.
Yes, he's a tribe leader, absolutely. The war was devastating for Native peoples. Entire families were sold into slavery abroad, meaning overseas. Others were forced to become servants locally. The Wampanoag had to adapt aspects of their culture to survive. Their independence had ended. Nevertheless, Native Americans continued to live in Plymouth Colony. Many maintained tribal ties and a strong sense of community. So number 18 says, which statement best explains the difference between how the English interacted with Native Americans in source 4 as compared to the French in source 3? A, the English sought to buy fertile lands from the Native Americans, which would allow them to become wealthy. B, the English wanted to help and convert the Native Americans to Christianity. C, the English required Native Americans to trade horses and guns for furs. Or D, the English forced their way of life onto the Native Americans.
I think it's D.
It's D, the English forced their way of life on the Native Americans.
And
All right.
they did slavery.
Yeah.
17,
17, guys, I don't need a paragraph. All right, I still have to grade all your paragraphs from yesterday.
I'm trying my hardest because I really don't.
I'm surprised I've not sat up in bed and told my husband about paragraphs at nighttime. Okay, because I've had to grade so many paragraphs. I would prefer you guys to not write me a paragraph tomorrow, but if you must, go ahead. Okay. I need 3 sentences to answer number 17. Using the sources in your knowledge of social studies, describe 2 ways European colonists impacted the culture of Native Americans. We have discussed this for probably 6 weeks. You should have plenty of background knowledge of how Europeans impacted Native American culture. I need 3 sentences, 3 complete sentences. Everybody have that? To 17, what do I need? 3 sentences. That's it. Can we do that?
I'm so happy with the next
This
topic
is the
was-
only extended response you have to do for me tomorrow, and it's really not an extended response. It's 3 sentences. Everything else is multiple choice.
Yay.
Got it? All right, moving on to the next page.
Oh.
Number 18. Which of the following products, ugh, I hate how I say that, would best represent the question mark on the map? So I'm going to hit next. That way my online friends see the same thing that we're seeing.
This is 18, the one with the tobacco across the map. What use tobacco?
Next.
I would actually have the questions on here.
Next.
Something I never thought I would see.
Okay, so here's the question that we're looking at right now. Tobacco. What do you think fits here?
What came from England to the United States in colonial trade?
Tobacco.
Look at your choices. Slaves, natural resources, meat and fish, or manufactured goods.
D.
Now, let's explain something. Natural resources were coming from the United States to England. Is that the way that arrow is showing?
No.
No,
Sorry, I got it wrong.
that arrow is showing from England to the United States. So it's not natural resources.
So it's D. D.
It's manufactured goods.
Yes, I
So number 18 is D. Got it? Again, I need everybody's pencils down. You should not be writing any of this anyway. All right, turn your page. Turn your page. Number 19. Which number represents the region that was well suited for farming?
C. 2.
Well, look, number 1 is in the far north region. Number 2 was kind of the middle area. Number 3 was the side of the Appalachian Mountains more to the west. Number 4 was the southern area.
D. D. 4. D.
4, which is D. It's D. Okay, that'd be the southern area. That's the Virginia area, guys. We've talked about Virginia having fertile land.
I forgot about that.
That's where Virginia is 4. Okay, so number 19 is D.
All right, go to your next page.
Oh, not D.
Now you're understanding why this test is so long.
This is like the longest test I've done ever.
Yeah, no joke.
That's for you to say. I didn't yawn.
Try copying all this and then having to digitally input all this. Pain in the backside.
How many pages
I
in
wanna
your
be
printer
asleep
print?
then.
It prints like thousands.
Yes, it does.
Is it like 1 minute? Like infinite
These
ink?
I printed at home.
Is it infinite ink?
She didn't make
I
them
have to
up.
pay for the
She
per
got
page.
it from the people who made them up.
I have to pay per page for my ink. Number 20. Why was it difficult for settlers at Plymouth to grow large-scale cash crops? Now let's think about this. Plymouth was not in Virginia. Plymouth was up north in the colonies. Remember, Plymouth was the one with this stony soil. Plymouth was the one that was established for religious freedom, okay? All right, so number 20. Why was it difficult for settlers at Plymouth to grow large-scale cash crops? A, there was no access to a freshwater source. B, the soil in the region was sandy and full of stones. C, the region was covered in dense forests that were difficult to clear. Or D, the climate did not support a long growing period. B as in boy, the soil was sandy and full of stones. 21. This is the one thing that up until this year had been a big part of the American colony study. They changed the study this year so that instead of studying the New England colonies, the middle colonies, and the southern colonies, they had to study Jamestown versus Plymouth. You're going to be studying Jamestown versus Plymouth next year in 5th grade. So when you hit this in 5th grade, you're going to already have all kinds of background knowledge. So it's a little easier, right?
Yeah.
So we've not studied this part yet.
So this is the one thing you're learning new.
While we're doing test review. The only question you've not heard of before. The only one, okay? So 21, looking at the chart. New England colonies, which included Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. That is Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. This Vermont was part of New Hampshire back then, and Connecticut. So these were the New England colonies. They were the farthest north of the colonies. Okay. The main way they used to make money was fishing, because they're right on the water, and logging, cutting down trees. Okay. The middle colonies were Delaware, Pennsylvania, New York. Why am I so blind right now? Oh my golly, I'm blind as a bat right this moment. Oh, New York. These. New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. So pink, blue, this pink and orange. Those are the middle colonies. Okay. Their main way of making money was grain farming. So wheat farming, oats, and mining for goods like iron ore, not gold, but mining for things. Southern colonies would be Maryland. We would never think of that being in the South, would we? Would you think of this state up here being in the South?
No.
I wouldn't. I think of that as being in the North, right? But they consider that a Southern colony.
I'm thinking of that in the
Virginia,
Northeast.
North and South Carolina, and Georgia. Personally, I would always think that as being in the North. They said that was a Southern colony. So here, down to there. Those are the Southern colonies. They made their money from tobacco and rice farming. I can't imagine rice farming all the way up in Maryland.
Holy.
Why did the New England colonies, those ones farthest north, focus on fishing and logging as their main economic activity? Hello. I'm guessing they're gonna say colony parent. Okay, so 21 choices are: the colonies had large areas of fertile land. The colonies were located in areas that had long growing seasons. The colonies were located along the coastline of the Atlantic Ocean, or the colonies were located near large waterways.
C, C, D, C, D, C, D,
C.
C.
Because they're located along the water.
Oh, yeah, oh,
I mean,
C.
they're right along the water.
C. Oh, I'm crazy.
Maybe.
I didn't.
You said it, not me.
It's A.
You said it by yourself, right?
It's C. It's C.
So many answers have been received.
I feel so much drowning.
I feel confused.
I slept 12 hours last night. I'm still drowsy, so yeah, I get it.
I slept only like 14. I don't know.
All right.
12 hours, that's the whole night.
Here's a new picture we haven't seen before. Look, it's a horsey in a fancy hat. So what nationality do you think that is? Horsey in a fancy hat. I don't think it's British. Spanish. All right. Number 22. By the way, do you notice how you can actually see what that picture is depicting?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a really bad picture. That's how you know this is printed on my own printer and not the school printer. Because if it's a school printer, that probably looks like a black blob. 22. What was the main reason for Europeans to explore the New World? A, find a new trade route with China. B, find natural resources that could bring wealth to their home country. C, expand the territory of their home country. D, expand power for their home country.
B. D. B.
It's B, find natural resources that could bring wealth to their home country. We had that on another question, didn't we?
Yeah, but he's
It's always about bringing home money for the home country, isn't it?
but he's kind of pushing that thing. So it's kind of like.
But isn't that still what drives countries to do things?
Yeah.
It's all about money, right?
I thought it was because there the word call turkeys in there. Why did I do that? It says for 23, Native Americans provided turkey as a gift to the colonists. Turkey is Indian. I know why the Native Americans gave turkey to the colonists.
All right, we have 2 more questions to go, guys. We're at the last page finally. Let's stop the talking. Class. Can you hold it together?
Maybe. Yes.
Please do. Logan, I know you can do it. He can. 23. Which of the following best describes how the Native Americans helped the colonists to survive at Plymouth? Guys. Native Americans taught the colonists how to plant corn. Native Americans provided turkeys as a gift to the colonists. Native Americans taught colonists to hunt game in the region. Native Americans traded goods with the colonists. Oh my gosh, they all sound right, don't they?
D.
It's A.
Oh,
They taught them how to plant corn. Remember, they taught them to put what in the ground?
Oh, fish.
Fish. They taught them how to put the herring in the ground to make the fertilizer for the corn, right?
They showed us in our last test, like our last one.
All right, look at number 24.
What type of resources are?
That picture of that blade of the hoe with the shading on it, it almost looks like a doll or something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It looks like yeah, it looks like a person instead of just shading on
What
a
is this
on a
thing,
blade.
though? Like human, natural.
Okay, so these are all tools. Okay, those are tools used in the cultivation of tobacco. I'm gonna make a wild guess here that I've probably got several students who wonder what the word cultivation means, and everybody's been scared to ask me.
I can't blame them. What does that mean?
Yeah, what is
To cultivate means to gather
Oh,
or to grow.
I really didn't.
So
Oh, to
I
grow to
suck at cultivating plants.
Oh, we already.
I do not have a green thumb.
We already. did
Okay. I'm really good at growing rosemary. Okay, I'm good at that. Unfortunately, my goats love to eat it. We joke that my goats are marinated, basted, grown on rosemary because they love to eat it. And I'm like, you jerks, get away from my plants.
Get away.
Because they love to eat my rose plants. They love to eat my daffodils, my lilies, and my rosemary. I'm like, could you please go eat all the weeds? Get away from my things that I grow for plant, for pretty. Okay. But the things that we like to grow to eat, I'm terrible at cultivating those. We tried growing pumpkins. We're terrible at cultivating pumpkins.
Oh, not me.
Right when it's time to harvest them, they die. We're terrible at cultivating pumpkins.
Oh, yeah. We tried to cultivate.
We're terrible at cultivating watermelons because when it's time to harvest them, they die. Or birds come along and eat them.
You have to have a certain.
Or my goats come along and eat them. And at that point, I like to kick the goat. Unfortunately, one of my goats has horns.
Ooh, that is good.
To cultivate means to grow or take care of. Got it? Okay. So these are all tools for cultivating tobacco. All right. So the question for 24, what is it, Kaylee? Hold on. What type of resources are depicted in the image? A, natural. B, human. C, capital. D, land.
B.
See, this is another, hold on. This is another question that we haven't learned. So, human resources are literally people. We are human resources. Okay? There's actually a department at the school board called Human Resources. Okay?
Oh, thank you.
Natural resources are the things that he, I'm talking about he, right? We all know,
Yeah.
puts on earth.
Can I?
Okay? Hold on. No. Hand down. Capital resources are the resources that are made by humans that are used to make other things. So these desks are made by humans, but they allow you to do your schoolwork. Right?
Oh, so they're capital.
So they're capital resources.
Oh, yeah, the capital.
Those computers are made by humans, but they allow you to make other products, don't they? So they're capital resources. So
I think it's natural.
looking at these tools,
Capital.
they're capital resources.
Capital.
Those are capital resources.
I thought they was D. I thought they was D. What does the D
They're not
stand
land.
for?
There's no such thing as a land resource.
Okay.
That's a made-up one.
I thought they
Capital resource is something made by humans that allows humans to make other things. So this building is a capital resource.
Wow.
Does that make sense now?
They let
So there were two things in this test booklet that we didn't directly teach. We have in years past, but it's fast enough to teach it through the test itself, right? So we actually have 5 minutes left over. You guys can read.
We did good. We did very
I'm gonna not do this today, because we just don't have time.
thank you very much.
What I am gonna do, I need you to close these up.
Throw them in the air and pickle them around. Oh.
Yes. If you wanna have your mind blown, go to the files tab and look at how many things I've uploaded to files.
You don't know how
No,
bad
thank
I
you.
hate
Can I got a five vote?
computer technology.
Go ahead. When they get older, it's gonna hurt tomorrow, won't it? All right, bye again.